I'm going to brag for a moment. When it comes to my online space, I'm one heck of a producer. There, I said it. But what so many successful entrepreneurs need specifically in the online space is someone to help them shift from producer to leader. Let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because so many people like me build their business with lots of hustle, blood, sweat, and tears, chipping away at our goals, one baby step at a time. And I don't know about you, but my goals are too big to chip away at that slowly. My guest today is going to tell you how to speed up the growth process and build that growth on a solid foundation. Stick around.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Today's guest, Kelly Roach, the CEO and founder of Kelly Roach International, is one of the only female founders in the online space to build her company from 0 to 8 figures with zero debt, investors, or outside funding. Kelly's a former NFL cheerleader and Fortune 500 executive turned 8-figure plus entrepreneur, empowering thousands around the globe to achieve financial and lifestyle freedom through entrepreneurship. Wait, there's more. She's also an 11-time international best-selling author, top 20 podcast host, and philanthropist who's been featured in major medias such as ABC, NBC, Fox, Forbes, as well as the recipient of prestigious awards such as being number 287 on the Inc. 5000 list, the Stevie Awards Woman of the Year. I wanted to shorten that bio, but I just couldn't. There's more. She's very impressive. Glad to have you with us and welcome to the show, Kelly.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for the intro.
Well, I want to tell you, that's one of the longest intros I've had, but I actually looked at it and go, well, which part are you going to take out of there? I couldn't. It's really impressive. So we'll dive right in, and I'm gonna start here. You think, from what I'm getting from you, that far too often what's offered in the online landscape, basic tactics, are meant for beginners. And that's clearly not what you're about. I know you've got plenty of ideas here, but give me one example of a tactic left out of sort of that basic tactic training.
Well, I think we could start at the very beginning, right? With it, which is that as an entrepreneur, you will exhaust your personal capacity and bandwidth very, very quickly, right? And so the entrepreneurial space is notorious for kind of teaching what I would say out of context, meaning giving a very small little sliver of what it looks like to be successful as a business owner. And the biggest shock of my life was when I got into the entrepreneurial space. I had come from corporate. I was managing a team of 100 people. I was running 17 locations. And I get into the entrepreneurial space and I discover that everything that entrepreneurs are learning is simply about sales and marketing. Now, I love sales and marketing. I teach launching. I wrote a book called Conviction Marketing. Like, I love teaching sales and sales systems, but they left out the most important part, which is that alone we can do so little, together we can do so much, right? And it's building a winning team. You cannot scale a winning company, a winning enterprise. You can't build a successful organization without surrounding yourself with extraordinary people that link arms with you on the mission. And, for so many entrepreneurs, they never have been taught or trained in management, hiring, training, coaching, building a team, right? And so without that missing link, you can never truly experience entrepreneurial freedom because you're trying to be everything to everyone and you're constantly working outside your zone of genius, which makes it really frustrating and overwhelming and stressful to be an entrepreneur, right? I mean, that's just one example I could give you, but it's a very big one. And I was so frustrated by it that I wrote a book on it. I built a whole program around it. It was one of the first books I wrote. It's called Bigger Than You, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Building an Unstoppable Dream Team. And I wrote that book because I started researching and I realized there are no resources teaching entrepreneurs what goes into building a winning team. And without that, what happens? They burn out. And that's why a lot of people actually have been leaving the entrepreneurial space over the last couple of years.
Yeah. All right, so let's pick that apart a little bit. First of all, is that the book you described? Is that the one with the iceberg on it, or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I was looking at your
Yes.
books and I saw that Conviction Marketing came out in 22, and so you
Yeah.
you're quite prolific. All right, what do you say to the guy, I don't know, like me, who goes into business 31 years ago, and the first thing my accountant told me was, be very careful about bringing anybody on. The moment you do that, your accounting, everything is going to go into hyper gear. And
Yeah.
so my instinct as an entrepreneur, like many, is, well, then I'll just sort of handle these things myself.
Yeah.
And in a sense, we hold our own careers back. But is there truth to that? I mean, where's that line of really complicating a business?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it, right? So let's pull that apart a little bit because there's a
Okay.
lot to what you just shared there,
Okay.
right? One of the most important stories that I ever heard was an accountant and a CEO were talking. You may have heard this story before. And, the accountant said, what if you hire all of these people and you spend all this money and you hire them and you train them and you invest in them and they don't work out, right? And then the CEO said, what if we hire these people and we don't invest in them and we don't hire them and we don't train them and they stay? Right.
Right.
And so it's kind of like that, right? Because if you don't hire a team and if you are, resistant to adding in any level of complexity to the business and you don't make an investment, you can't make a return. It's just like if you think about if you're going to invest in real estate, if you're going to invest in the stock market, if you're going to invest in cryptocurrency, you can't make a return on that investment until after you have invested,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And team is the exact same way. Now, you said, well, where's the line and where's the risk versus reward? Well, if you as a leader are not committed to learning how to manage effectively and be a great leader and get a return on investment for your employees, meaning you're just going to hire people, you want them to just come in, complete tasks for you, do the job, and you don't really want to be actively engaged in the process of managing, coaching, leading, and training them, well, then it probably doesn't make sense for you to do.
Mhm.
But if you're someone that is invested in really maximizing the returns that you can get by having employees, then you will monetize and you will look for how you can strategically set each person up that you hire to be able to bring a return on investment to the company. So it's all in your own attitude, it's all in your own strategy. And I mean, to your point even further about like the accountant advising you not to do that, that's their job, right? Their job is they're just looking at the numbers and they're telling you what the story is of those numbers. They're not looking at the numbers and telling you what the potentiality of, if you make this move, this could happen. If you make this move, right? They're not visionaries, right? You have to be
Yeah.
the visionary, which is why you take that guidance and you take that data and that story that they're presenting to you, and then you have to decide how you're going to take what is and turn what is into what you want it to be.
Yeah. So well said. We should have bumped into you 31 years ago, but no, it makes sense, and I really want to just pause for a moment. I want everybody to hear that, because listen to what Kelly's saying, and then listen to the entrepreneur on the other side who's telling you this. If I could go into the Wayback Machine and start my business over, I'd make a change here or there. The biggest change I'd make is what you just described. It's not like it was gospel. I could have certainly made different decisions, but once I sort of factored that into my head, it changed the trajectory of my career. I'm very pleased with my career. I love my career. But I'm telling you right now, I would have done it differently had I gotten some different advice. So that's one of the reasons why we listen to podcasts and we
Yeah.
bring professionals on, because sometimes our instincts can fool us, particularly when those instincts are kind of supported by the accounting profession in a
For
sense.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you have to, as an entrepreneur, you're constantly managing risk, right? So everything that we do is risky, right? But it's managing risk versus reward. And I always say the best way to think about it is when you make a decision, it's standing ready to deal with the consequences of your decision,
Right.
regardless of what they are, right?
Right. Right.
And the consequences of the decision of hiring people, I say this all the time, and I've built teams up to 100 people. I love building teams, and I've had all of the best experiences and the greatest money making experiences of my career have come from hiring and growing teams. And
Right.
also the worst experiences of my career and the hardest things that I've been through and the most heartbreaking things that I've been through have also been because of team.
Right.
So it is a double-edged sword, and it's just like everything else in life. It's like you don't appreciate the sweet unless you've tasted the bitter, and that's how you learn new skills, and that's how you build the resilience and the wisdom that you need to be successful at where you're going next.
Yeah. Well said. But I think the most important factor here is we're really talking to entrepreneurs now. And if you're talking to a person who has that heart, that beating heart of an entrepreneur, then certainly they've dealt with that fear of change and that risk. So it's one of the reasons why we can be real smart, but we want to surround ourselves with smart people
For sure.
because when it comes to training, it was funny. As you were explaining, you said, and the training of people, I went, training. I could tell Kelly about training. That's my area. Sometimes people step in, the accountant may step in and go, now, when it comes to training, I go, no, 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 no. That's probably not an area you want to tell me about right now.
Yeah.
I write books on that. I do all that. We can do everything as an entrepreneur, and I think sometimes you're hearing this one case study of an entrepreneur whose instinct was, to listen to one voice
Yeah.
and then to follow it, almost
Yeah.
religiously,
Yeah.
and it makes me think. But let me shift it just real fast. Well, let's take it online for a second, because while we're on this case study, and I do know this guy Jollis pretty well. Uh, Online, the accountant hasn't told me anything. We can lose that now. I tell myself I always like learning the moves that I'm making online myself in case the power goes out. In a sense, I know how to fix the electricity. I know how to run this house, as opposed to getting out so quickly that I'm caught if things go wrong. The problem with that, and I'm just finishing the scenario, is then I get comfortable doing it and I don't like handing it off to anybody. But when it comes to online, uh, same sort of deal. Are you one who says bring in some professionals and use your time in a different way? But how do you handle the online part of this?
I mean, you have to know enough to be dangerous, right? You
Mhm.
have to know, and I'll give a great example, right? So
Okay.
for me, a huge part of scaling my companies has been advertising, right? I've never set up an ad in my life. Gun to my head, I don't know how to set up an ad. But you know what I do know how to do? I know how to measure, track, assess, and make investment decisions around ads. I know when an ad's working, I know when it's not working. I know what to look at to know whether it's working or not working. I know when something's performing and when it's not performing. And I know when it's not performing, what I need to look at to figure out how to get it performing, right?
Right.
So the thing is as an entrepreneur, there are a million things at any given time that we could focus on trying to learn or master or, be the one to do in the business. But what we have to figure out is what is the highest and best use at any given time of our energy and our aptitude, right? And so, knowing your zone of genius and continuing to narrow into only executing around your zone of genius is how your business is really going to grow and thrive. And most entrepreneurs spend so much of their time outside of their zone of genius that's why they feel so burnt out and disconnected from their businesses, because they're like, I don't even enjoy what I'm doing. I'm not even doing the work that I love. That thing that I started this business to go out and create is not where I'm actually, spending my energy. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate of team, because it needs to get done. It's not like you can just shove it under the rug and say it's not going to happen. But if someone can do it better, faster, cheaper, than you can, then you really have to explore that.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes complete sense.
Yeah.
But, I've always wanted to write this book called Instinct versus Logic, because the only problem with it, Kelly, is where do you stop? It's, the
Yeah.
one thing you can't write a book is about everything. But
Yeah.
so many times we run into things, and we're sort of running into it right now, where we just sort of lean back and go, You'll see. But a week from now, you go, Jollis, he's in my head again. Because you're going to bump into something and we go, God, another classic example of where
Yeah.
our instinct says this, but logic says that. And
Yeah.
the poster child is, we'll buy low and sell high. I
Yeah.
mean, look, I think a sixth grader knows that lesson. How many people actually do it? That's another issue, right?
Yes.
So,
That is
but
very
we
true.
take that scenario and it factors out into the conversation we're having right now. Sometimes that's again why we build that team that you're talking about,
Yep.
because then we're not just alone with our own instincts. We have a group
Yes.
around us, to make us stronger.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And I mean, I think so many people have such an adverse perspective on building team. And a lot of times the team's performance is just a reflection of your leadership. And, I hear the sentiment out there all the time. Oh, I can't find anyone that wants to work hard, or I can't find people that care as much as I do, or whatever the case. I think that when you become the kind of leader that can attract and retain people that are smart and savvy and talented and committed and caring, you'll build a team that's exactly that, right? And I've had that experience. I think it's our own personal evolution on the leadership journey that puts us in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah, amen to that. All right,
Mhm.
let's shift a little bit. You talk about something called Kairos. I get it right. Kelly
Right.
helped me with it before we started, but
Yeah,
now
that's
I'm
okay.
overthinking it. Is it Kairos?
It's Kairos, but everybody
Kairos.
pronounces it differently anyway. So how I
What did
pronounce
I
it is
tell you? I
not,
said
yeah,
I'll write it down, but I'll probably get it wrong. Okay,
it's okay.
Kairos. That was the hard part. Tell us what it is and what you mean by this Kairos moment.
Yeah, so I've been talking a lot about this. So I'm a person of faith. I don't know how many of your listeners are, but so Kairos is, an old Greek word. It's a Latin word. There's so many different. You can look it up, and there's so many different definitions of it. But you could boil it down to, when you think about Kairos, is a critical time for a crucial decision. A critical time for a crucial decision, right? And
Right.
so if you think about Kairos is, it's like a moment, it's a flash of a moment, right? And so how this all started was, I started hearing from a lot of entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs, over a period of like 6 to 9 months, where they just kept saying, I feel out of alignment. I'm frustrated with my business. I'm not excited about what I'm doing anymore. I feel stuck. I don't feel like I'm even resonating with what I'm teaching, and it was kind of this like disorientation, like from their own business, right? And that's not surprising at all, given what the world has gone through over the last couple of years, all the changes in society. Everybody went through COVID. People have grown and changed so much. And so, I started kind of thinking about, people, in a lot of ways, faith is no longer a part of the common vernacular in day-to-day life. It's really been very much pushed to the sidelines. And there's also a meaning of Kairos that is in the Bible and that is in the faith world. And it also relates to a critical moment for a crucial decision. But it's, even to take it a step further, it's when you are welcoming God into your life in such a powerful way that you are left forever changed, right? It's like God comes into your life in such a way that you're never the same again. And what I realized for a lot of business owners is that some way, somehow, there was this distance that started growing from between them and their calling, right? And
Right.
when you're on purpose, you're like a fire, right? You're just like a bolt of lightning, like nothing can stop you. When you're on purpose and you're grounded in your truth and you feel in alignment and you're really executing based on like your calling and what you feel is the purpose of your life, you're unshakable, you're unbreakable, you're untouchable, you're just unstoppable. And so I realized that for a lot of people, this disconnect between them and their business was also kind of a disconnect between them and their calling. And so I introduced this idea of welcoming a Kairos moment into your life, where you invite God into your life again. You invite kind of the initiation of your new era, and you bring your business and you bring your life back into alignment with your calling and kind of where you're being asked to go next in your life, right? Because it's not a straight line, right? We start our businesses over here, and then it goes up here, and it goes down here, and it goes over here, and it goes over there. And I mean, it's not a straight line. You're all over the place, because as you grow and evolve as a person, the business does too. Well, what happens when you grow and evolve as a person, but the business hasn't? right? Huge disconnect. And what happens is the business stops growing. And this is what I was seeing with so many people. This separation between them and their purpose and them and their calling really was causing their business to stagnate, because psychologically they're out there selling something that they're not even behind anymore. They're not even super excited about what they're doing anymore. So started this movement around Kairos. It's just blowing up. I think people are really craving a deeper connection to the work that they're doing in the world. They're craving getting clear on what their new era is and where they're being called to go next in their life. And I think people are starting to realize that a lot of the story that society told us about what we can, achieve externally, or what we need to chase externally, is in a lot of ways filling a void that can only be filled with faith, right? It's a void that is not going to be filled out there by buying something, right? It's going to be filled in here in our hearts. And so I'm just inviting people to consider going deeper, going deeper into their calling, going deeper into their faith, kind of thinking about their work, from a servicing perspective in a new light, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to tap lightly on this. But does it have to be, when I think of spiritual, for instance, I'll disclose with you right now, I think I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah.
You won't find me in a church or a synagogue very often. Okay. But I take what's right is right very seriously. And I like to think that I have a strong moral compass. I'd like to think so. So as you're speaking, and we use the word God here, I'm substituting that word for spiritual, being spiritual. Are we still on the same path here, or did I take a fork off?
Listen, here's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
When I go to be with God, I like to go to church on Sundays. I bring my daughter to church with me. When my husband likes to go to be with God, he goes and he walks into the water and he goes fishing out at the beach. Okay. Right. So all of us are seeking connection to our Creator in a unique and different way, right? Some people like to do it this way. Some people like to do it that way. Some people like to do it that way. We're all looking for the same thing, right? We're all looking for connection. We're all looking to be a good person. We're all trying to grow in some way, shape, or form. So to me, what path you take to get there, it's as unique as we are.
Good.
Right? And I don't think it's anyone's job for us to be like, you got to do it this way, right? You got to do it that way. It's finding our own unique path. Right.
Good. That's perfect. Good. And thank you for kind of clarifying that, because sometimes, people will misinterpret that message a bit. So that's clear. And it certainly makes sense. I think when we lose that, we can have all the success that we want as an entrepreneur. There's something missing where we're an engine running on 3 cylinders. So that part of it is very important. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I found that with this Kairos moment, that I've had people of all walks of life, of all different spiritual beliefs, of all different religions, people that don't have a religion, that don't have, really a spiritual life, that are being drawn to this message because they're like, there's something deeper. I want something more. I want to go deeper, and I think it looks completely different for each one of us. But I think that when you have that feeling that you're made for more, there's something there, right?
All right. So blink twice if there's a book maybe in the offing here.
There will be a book, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So leave that alone. That one's we've already got a manuscript building on that one. Well, good. I think I would love to read that book. And I think it would be interesting because we don't always tie that message into entrepreneurship and business. Sort of, they're on different islands and they have no business being on different islands. It's all a part of the balance that we're trying to seek.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So let me shift you a little bit. We've got a lot of entrepreneurs that listen, and I think a lot of them, again, the king of the mistakes, the jealous entrepreneur. A lot of them, I think, create their own glass ceilings, and so as a leader, how do you keep from falling into that trap? And I think I've actually described one earlier when I was mentioning, I intentionally took a strategy to limit the size of my business to basically build a ceiling.
Yeah.
As my accountant told me to.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really reason that out as carefully, and I don't want people to get anxious here. I'm very happy with my career. I really, but it would have been a change I would have made. How do we keep
Yeah.
that from happening?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, right? Because there is inherent risk in anything that you do to play bigger. And that's the thing that you have to remember. It doesn't matter whether
Right,
it's spending money on advertising, whether
right,
it's working with a new coach, whether it's, investing in hiring help, whether it's building out new marketing assets. There is inherent risk in every single thing that you can do to move forward. So I think that how you help yourself, how you self coach yourself through that is when you're not moving forward with something that you know will help you, really asking yourself, are you not moving forward because you don't believe that this will help you, that you'll get a result, that you're going to have success? Or are you not moving forward because you're fearful that it's not going to work out? Chances are 5 times out of every 10, it's not going to work out, but it doesn't need to work out 10 out of 10 times, right?
right,
We all know
right,
that. Like,
right.
there are so many iterations and so much testing that goes into developing any successful strategy, that you're either playing to win or you're playing not to lose.
Right.
And playing not to lose is going to keep you stuck real quick. And that's where those ceilings are that you're talking about.
Yeah. And there we are kind of bumping into this fear word again. I probably bring this up about once out of every 10 shows. So but a movie I happen to always love and I talk to my guests about occasionally is the movie Defending Your Life. I don't know if you've ever seen it, getting to know, but I
No.
will tell you, go see that movie. It's on Netflix or something.
Okay.
Albert Brooks, Meryl Streep. It's got a nice little cast
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
But it deals with his vision of death and what we do, and
Okay.
whether we're reborn or we get moved through the universe. But the criteria is how we managed fear. And it's really fascinating, right down to sort of a defender and a prosecutor showing moments where we didn't let fear hold us back
Yeah.
as really why we're here, and
Yeah.
moments where we did have let fear hold us back, and they're almost always really disappointing moments.
Yeah.
It's never really that disappointing when fear doesn't hold us back, we go charging in and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
We dust ourselves off, we get back up, we put one foot in front of the other, we keep going. No one is ashamed of that story. The story we're ashamed of is when we said, I was too afraid to try. And if we're talking to entrepreneurs here, we should be preaching to the choir right now of you wouldn't be an entrepreneur if you
Yeah.
let fear hold you back.
Yeah.
It's
For sure.
critical.
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Okay. All right. But you know, as a fellow entrepreneur, like many, I have a number of side hustles that I truly enjoy. Now, you own several different companies.
You do.
And here we are talking about, trying to manage a lot of things. I'm whining about managing one company. You manage a bunch of them. My side hustles are small.
Yeah.
I'm a charitable auctioneer over here, run a podcast over there, little things like that. But you're running some pretty big companies out there. How do
Yeah.
you find the time to do that? And don't forget, you have a podcast too, and you have a
Yes.
family. How do you manage
Yes.
all that?
Yes. Well, I mean, it really comes back to everything that we talked about on the show today,
Mhm.
right? I started building my team from day one. I have people that have been with me now for 10 years, right? So I've been investing in cultivating and curating talent on my teams for a decade now. Right. So I have great leadership within my companies. I have great talent. I have tenure. I wouldn't be able to have 6 companies if I didn't have people that were running those companies, that were executing, that were serving my customers, that understand the vision and the mission and are committed to what we're doing. So, I'm skating on the surface of it. I'm the visionary behind it. I'm driving the strategy a lot of times, but I'm not typically the person that is, driving the full on execution of it. So team is everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I came from the 60-hour plus work week in corporate, and not really interested in going back to that. And so that takes a willingness to take on risk. Right. So
Right.
I spend a lot of money on advertising and I invest highly in team and all of those things. But I've learned through the goods and the bads, to get to a point of getting great returns on both of those things, which is what allows me to run multiple companies successfully.
Right, right. And I think, I just to remind people, because you're not the first person I've heard say this. I just typically hear it from managers. You ask them what's the toughest part of their career, of their job, and they won't tell you getting up in the morning and going to work, or
Yeah.
managing this. Hiring the right people, holding on to the right people, knowing
Yeah.
when to let people go. It's
Yeah.
all about
100%.
team, which I
Yeah.
think you said maybe 10 times on this
Yeah.
podcast. It's
For
it's
sure.
sticking, I promise.
Yeah.
Team. I
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
But it is.
It
You
is. It
you go
really
to a
truly
restaurant.
is.
If they got the right chef in there and the right waiter or waitress over there and the right person, even if the meal doesn't come out quite right, or it's all right. The team is handling this. You can have the best
100%.
meal in the world. If the team isn't handling it properly, it's a bad evening. It's
You're
not a
right.
bad meal. It's a bad evening.
You're right.
And here's a nutty question. I think I tipped my hand a little bit, but I'm curious from you. Uh, which is worse in your mind? A bad meal and good service, or a bad meal, good service, or a good meal and bad service?
Oh, man, that's tough. I guess it depends on the mood that I'm in, but I mean, I would say it's definitely a huge turnoff when you have bad service. I mean, you aren't likely to go back even if
Right,
the food was good, right?
right,
Because the experience wasn't,
right.
you know.
And
Whereas when the experience is great, even if the food is mediocre, you'll keep going back,
right.
you know?
That's where I said I dropped a couple cards on the table there. I usually, most of my friends go the other way, but I'm very clear, at least in my belief.
Yeah.
If I have a really good waiter and just, and the chef comes out and this and that,
Yep.
and the meal's a little cold or whatever, doesn't bother me.
Yeah,
It,
I'm the
it
same
it
way.
may have
Yeah.
taken the meal down, but it didn't take the evening
Yeah.
down. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Give me a
Yeah.
hot meal that tastes good with somebody surly over here and was rude over
Yeah.
there, and this isn't working, and you've ruined my night. And
Yeah.
I think that's almost a metaphor for the
Yeah.
way we run our businesses a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And once again, where are we? Back at team, right? We
Yeah.
get the right team. Of course, we're going to have some issues. There's no company that doesn't. I've worked for Xerox for many years. We never preached we're never going to make a mistake. What we preached in
Exactly.
our quality courses was when we do, we're going to fix it
Yeah.
fast. We're going to fix it right the first time. And we can almost gain market share by demonstrating not if, but when things happen, this is what we do about it,
Yeah.
right? Just like
100%.
Nordstrom's. Remember, I mean,
Yep.
years ago, Kelly, you're a little younger than me, but I remember when Nordstrom came out of the gate. Everyone was like, What's this?
Yeah.
And you're selling what everyone else sells for more, and I want to go there. But then we learned about this experience of buying it there and being serviced there and the
Yeah.
team that they produced there. And we realized they proved it that,
Yeah.
oh, I'll go there for the exact same thing that's in the mall, 3 stores down, because I'm safe here. I'm taken
Yeah.
care of here. And the
Yeah.
experience is joyful.
It's really good. That's a really good example. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Last question, I believe. I'm coming down the home stretch with you, as I said. How about, let's see, I've got a few for you. How about, you know what I want to do? I led the show with, you know, I'm a producer, but not a leader. And I think that's a lot. It's not, this isn't all about Rob. So I think a lot of people that I coach and counsel will spend an enormous amount of time on production because uh, it occupies their time. It fulfills their
Yeah.
day. It makes them feel like I'm really getting at my day.
You're
They
getting
may
stuff
not be
done.
getting, and in a sense, it's a form of procrastination because it was a full day and a productive day, just wasn't exactly what you were supposed to be doing day.
Yes,
How
exactly.
do we, okay, so
Exactly.
how do we go from producer to leader? I know and by the way, the answer is we're going to be calling Kelly. That's how you do it. Okay. We're going to
You
get
call
your
Kelly.
contact information. But give me
Yeah.
a tip, another tip on
No,
that
I
one.
mean, I think that's just it, right? It's do you want to be comfortable and confident majoring in minor things?
Mhm.
Or do you want to graduate and feel uncomfortable and a little less confident majoring in major things that are going to move the needle and make the difference? And that's what you said is exactly right. It's exactly what I see with entrepreneurs every single day. They consume themselves with being busy because it makes them feel like they're getting things done because it's things that they feel competent to complete. versus like when you think about stepping into leadership, it's very much like almost experiential to people. It's not as much of a skill set that people feel like they can check a box or have a tactical checklist to follow. And so it's a little bit more difficult, right? To feel like you're being productive as a leader. But I mean, that's up to you how far you want to go and you know, how far you want to be able to lead your team and your company too.
That's it. I mean, listen, but back on the theme of want to grow your business, you want to move that
Yeah.
ceiling. These are the things
Yeah.
you've got to consider.
That's it.
All right. How
That's
about
it.
a mentor or two
A
for you?
mentor
A
too.
mentor or two, somebody
Oh.
that kind of helped show you the way. You might want to give a shout out to.
Yeah, well, my mentor of 15 years, his name is Dave Nels, and he is not in the online space, unfortunately. I tried to recruit him, actually. He retired, and I tried to get him to come work with me, but he is at home with his grandchildren now. But he was my mentor of 15 years, and I really learned everything there is to learn about business from him. So I was very, very lucky. And then when I first got started in the online space, Allie Brown was the first coach that I worked with to learn about online marketing because I had come from business to business in the offline world. So she was one of the first mentors that really helped me learn about online marketing.
Okay. And online marketing is that, I mean, I know you've got a handful of businesses there, but is that the one? I mean, if somebody's listening right now, because in about 20 seconds, I'm going to say, how do people get a hold of you? And we're going to put your
Yeah.
information on our site. But
Yeah.
how do people get a hold of you to help them write a book? No. How do you're an
Grow.
online marketer? I mean, is that what we call you?
I'm a business growth strategist. So,
Business
you
growth
know, the
strategist.
word, when you think of Kelly Roach, think of grow. If you are an entrepreneur that wants to grow,
Got it.
sales, marketing, team, operations, service delivery, or mental game, whatever element of growth you want to pursue, that's where we live. We help people to maximize their potential and build successful companies.
Sounds like you said it once or twice before. Well
I've said
said.
it once or twice
That's
before.
right. That's lesson number 27 that Kelly will teach you is be ready for the question of what is exactly you do.
Yeah.
And it don't take 10 minutes getting there either.
Yeah.
Okay, you
Yeah.
walk the walk on that one. Well, all right. I said 20 seconds. I'm a little late. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I would say check out the Kelly Roach Show because, you know, there's over 1,000 episodes. I teach everything related to building successful companies online. So that's a great place to start. And besides that, you know, get in touch with me on Facebook or Instagram, Kelly Roach on Facebook, Kelly Roach Official on Instagram. You can DM me the word mentor and, you know, we'll share more about how we help people and how we can help you to grow.
Perfect. And again, we've got your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your Twitter, your YouTube podcast. We'll put it all up there.
Awesome.
Well, I want to tell you, really, I enjoyed the conversation, and I got a little bummed out when I started thinking, getting in my Wayback Machine. But I just think it's a very powerful lesson that you've got to listen to. You're talking to somebody, me, who is a successful entrepreneur. I'm proud of it. And
Yeah.
it's the biggest change I would have made. I don't think there were a whole lot of growth strategists around back
Yeah.
then. At least they didn't call themselves that.
Yeah.
It was sales and marketing, as you said.
Sure.
And quite frankly, as a sales trainer, I think most people have marketing issues more than they have sales issues, quite
Yeah.
frankly. They get them mixed
Agree.
up.
Yes.
I want to call me when you've got so many people in your pipeline, but none of them are closing. Now you need a sales strategist. But how many people do you hear who say, I have a sales problem? You go, what's the pipeline look like? Empty.
Yeah.
Well,
That's true.
it's a marketing issue. And
Yeah.
so, but those were the two that I grappled with. Growth strategy wasn't really on the radar. It came out, it's been there. I could have found it,
Yeah.
but that's why I like talking to people like you. Any case,
sure.
thank you so much for being on the show. Really grateful.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.